Broadcasting straight to you from a spaceship currently scaring some kids over, what's that called again? Witch Mountain. That sounds made up. Somebody double check that. That name sounds made up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which propose that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure thousands of miles wide. Check it out at enclosedworld.com or just Google Flat Earth Clues. If you can't find it, you're probably blind. My good friend and personal wingman for the show, once again, is Jonathan from Jersey. How's it going, man?
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So before we get right into it, because we have a fantastic show for you guys tonight, quick little shout-outs. The first one is to Boyd, I'm not going to say his last name, from Mesa, Arizona, who sent me a 2-pound box of assorted fudge, which was very interesting. I do not know who exactly made the fudge. I know that it was sent through Bass Pro Shops, and it was FedEx to me. So thank you very much. My family, my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins were all up here, and we enjoyed it very much.
Man.
What?
You're all going to be found dead, not just you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know there was this big dinner party, and we cut it up in all sorts of little chunks, and that's what we had for dessert. We had it with ice cream.
It's like that scene at the end of Monty Python, The Meaning of Life, when death shows up.
Oh, and he points, and he goes, wait, we couldn't have killed us all. What was it? He goes, the salmon mousse. And he points, he's got his bony finger right on the salmon.
Right.
And they said, you didn't use canned salmon, did you? And that was great. You're right. That was a great quote. I love that. The other one, or the second one, real quick. I get emails every once in a while, as you know, from people that like the show. This is from Jim. It's a real short one, though. He says, "Hey, Mark, what is your opening theme tune to Strange World? It's great. Your Strange World shows with John are my hangover cure on Sundays." Smiley face. "Any chance I could get a shout out on your next show? Please, that would be awesome. Jim from England. Peace."
Right on.
No, Jim, I'm not going to give you a shout out. So there.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. We're just not going to do it. We're not even going to mention his name.
Nope.
And the third one was some I've got to mention to people that may have caught it on my channel. There was a neat guy. If hopefully I didn't screw it up, but please feel free to correct me. George from Canada, country music singer from Canada, wrote some lyrics. He's a recent Flat Earth convert. And he sent me some lyrics and, laid down a track called Dear Globe. And he goes, hey, can you help me, come up with some slides for the project? And I was just going to send him some images. And I said, you know what, just send me the full-blown song. I'll put together into a show. And we did it. And so far it's getting 97%, I think, approval rating and great. Nice job. So anyone wants to check it out, look it up. It's just called Dear Globe. It's a Flat Earth country music song. Never thought I'd be saying that on air. Okay, so this show, what we did was we pre-recorded it, and remember the last show, which was Robert from the United States Navy, the missile instructor. That went over like gangbusters, and it's getting lots of hits. And not only that, but he sent some confirmation, because some people said, wow, he's obviously not real. How do we know it's really him? And so not only did he send a helicopter video of him flying into his ship, the Iwo Jima, which was great, a 12-minute video in real, no editing. But he also sent a 45-second video of him in the Sparrow missile system training room. I can't remember what city it's in. Where he actually took a cocktail napkin and without editing wrote Flat Earth and then my name on it. So thank you.
That's a funny video.
It is a funny video because I didn't even see it coming. I look at it, he goes, check this out, right? This ought to shut him up. He actually put that. And I was watching, and all of a sudden I Flat Earth, and it's like, what else is he writing? And he wrote my name, and I was going, oh no. That's fantastic. That's the one you're going to see on the news. That's the one you're going to see on Fox News when they link me to some sort of terrorist activity.
Oh, it's funny though. I'm reading the comments in there, and the few people that are like, "Oh, this guy's not for real. It's made up." You know, the whole BS line.
Yeah.
I went and gave a screen capture of what it's like talking to him on Skype.
Oh yeah, please go into detail on this. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So when we were when we were talking the other day, he was having connection problems, and I looked, and sure enough, there's the Department of Defense on our call. You know, trying to hit my IP. Yeah. And so the same thing happened again when I was talking to him 3 days after, and I'm like, "Yep, sure." As soon as we connected, so I put a screen capture of that up on the video. You'll see my comment under Jonathan M. You'll see what it's like from my angle.
Yeah. Jonathan he's pretty savvy when it comes to this stuff, and he caught that, and he mentioned it to me. He's going, the second that Robert came on to talk with a submarine guy, who we'll get into in a second here, the second he came in there, the DOD was following him the whole way. And I was going, really? And he shows me the screenshots. I was going, oh man! So if anyone wants the screenshots, I'll put it up. I'll throw a slide in definitely.
There you go.
But into the show. But if anyone wants, just an isolated screenshot, I'll send it to you. So yeah.
Now, do you want to? Did you want to play the whole audio tonight and just let people hear what we do behind the scenes?
Yeah. That's a great idea. Let's do this. Because what we did was we pre-recorded a show with so basically a lot of people listen to Robert from the United States Navy, the missile instructor, and a submarine chief electronics technician. He called me. And he said, he could definitely do a show and add to this a whole bunch. So we brought him on, and then as we were kind of organizing things, we said, you know what? Let's see if we can get Robert to join in, and let these two chat it up. Let these two guys compare notes, and it went really, really well. I don't know what you thought of the show, but I thought it went fantastic towards the end.
That was fun. That was a good. The end was it really warmed up, and then forget it. That might have to be in part 2.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this thing. We're going to run the audio clip from the very beginning, and we'll go to breaks, and then we'll come in for breaks live. And if the show ends, I think it's I don't think we're going to have enough time. We're going to parse this out and probably either put it in a part 2 or put it in another show or whatever we're going to do. But you won't have to wait very long. So, What do you think? So we should do this?
Yeah, I'll cue it up. Tell me.
All right, here we are trying to organize the show with the submarine guy and the missile instructor.
All right, here we go.
Right?
You know absolutely nothing about me. How can you introduce me?
Seriously, he's got.
No, I do know something about you.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, I know I have the letter that you sent.
I was going to say, if you check this guy out, for all we know, he could have like 10 aliases on Godlike Productions or some crap.
All right, if you get a chance, okay. So what Robert did? What Robert did from the assault, or from the assault, what do they call it, amphibious assault ship, is right. He actually filmed himself with a helicopter coming in and landing on the ship. So I thought that was pretty credible.
Robert looks like he's 12 years old. His dad could have paid for that ride.
Dude, we got to leave this in.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're recording. Go ahead.
We're leaving this in.
That's a compliment.
He looks young. He looks really young. He does not look 30. That's for sure. And or 29 or whatever he is. So anyway, let's get to it, shall we?
All
right. So we got an email from a guy after he listened to our Navy missile instructor, and it reads something like this. Hey Mark, I am a retired Navy chief electronics technician who has served on board 5 nuclear-powered subs over a 20-year career from 1988 to 2008. My life was puppies and rainbows until I stumbled onto your flat Earth clues. What were you thinking? But seriously, I was listening to your interview with Robert, the sailor from the target fleet. That's what us sub guys call surface ships, and got to thinking about how we drove submarines in the ocean and it would not work on a globe Earth. Why, you ask? Never, ever did we take the curvature of the Earth into consideration, nor did we ever consider gravity. It's similar to airplanes. And then he gave out his contact info, and for this show, his name is Jason. Because I normally we were going to say your real name anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
we can keep that out.
Okay, that's fine. So we're going to call you Jason. And hey, Jason, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. You know, the more military personnel we can get, the better. And you and I talked pre-show, and it was very interesting, some of the stuff you were saying, because a submarine, while still in the U.S. Navy, it handles itself somewhat differently than what you call target ships, the surface crew. So when you were listening to the show, what was on your head? What was on your mind?
Well, I've been looking into this for a little bit. Like I was telling you about how I think it was Rob Skiba was doing an interview on some other show, and the host talked about having to watch one of his videos prior to listening to the show to understand it better. Mm-hmm. So I watched his video, and then I went down the rabbit hole from there.
Okay.
It got really interesting, because I was like you guys have described a lot of other people. This is crazy. This is nuts. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure what I'm doing here right now.
You would not be alone. Jonathan and I say that every week.
Yeah.
And not only did that happen, but I was looking into it for a couple of weeks, mm-hmm. and I happened to call one of my younger brothers, and so we're talking about some stuff, and I tell him, hey, man, listen, I want to ask you about something, and don't think I'm crazy, but have you looked into this flat Earth issue that's like going on? He's like, and he was telling me, oh, no, dude, well, who you been talking to? Because he thought I had a conversation with my other younger brother, because the two of them were talking about it already before I even knew about it. And it turns out the three of us at the same time during a 2-3 week span kind of discovered this whole flat Earth thing at the same time without either of us even knowing it.
Freaky.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was kind of freaky. And then, I kept on, trying to look for more information, like a lot of people just trying to debunk it, because this is crazy. This is crazy talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I have an open mind, ever since discovering 9/11, what really happened that day. Mm-hmm. All bets are off on any topic. I don't care what it is, what you think it is. If I learned it my whole life one way, mm-hmm. I throw it out the window. I'm relearning it. I don't care what it is.
Okay.
Because I mean, look at all the different things that are going on in our world today. Most of it's based on bullshit. So
yeah, yeah.
So then I was listening to your show that with Robert, the sailor guy.
Yeah.
He was talking about his weapon system, and I think he brought up the gyro compasses and the accelerometers and things like that. And it just got me to thinking. And then the line of sight with the lasers, mm-hmm. and it got me to thinking the way we drove the submarines around under the water.
Yeah.
And it really has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth when you think about the submarine, because we drive based on depth. All right.
Yeah.
So regardless of what the shape of the bottom of the ocean is, doesn't matter. But mainstream science claims, what about the surface of the ocean?
Yeah.
That it follows the curve of the globe. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a submarine underwater, and what we would do is when we're driving, every 6 hours, you would do what we call trimming the ship. And you'd log it in a book. What that means, you've got anywhere from a 380 to a 600 foot long tube. Mm-hmm. All right, and it's weights are distributed all about. People are moving around. You'd have to move water around in all these different tanks. We call them ballast tanks.
Okay. To
level out the ship, the trim of it fore and aft, the roll side to side, so that it runs smoothly and straight through the water on depth at a certain speed.
Okay.
So we would go ahead and trim the ship, and we would try to trim it to where you would have your control surfaces like an airplane. You've got your front wings, your back stabilizers and all that on an airplane. Same thing on a submarine. Mm-hmm. So we would trim it to the point where we would go a certain speed with our control surfaces at zero angle with the angle of the ship on a zero angle, where a bubble is zero, like a plane would be level on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Submarine's bubble would be zero. And we would try to get exactly to that point where everything would be zero, and you could maintain depth at that speed without touching anything.
Okay.
All right. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's pretty easy. I'm not saying you can drive around for hours like that without having to make adjustments, because people move around. You got to move water and things like that.
Yeah. It's a little hard to run level in a submarine than it is an airplane, because there's a lot of weight differences. And
no, I'd probably actually say it's probably easier to do it on a submarine than an airplane.
Oh, okay.
Because it is. Well, according to what my pilot friends have told me, how long they can keep a zero horizon on the plane without touching the control sticks is from several seconds to maybe a couple of minutes at the most.
Okay. It's easy. Is it easier at a deeper depth because the fathoms are heavier, or it's keeping you in place, as opposed to the currents up top that are shifting you?
It just all depends. See, under the water is kind of like up in the air also. You have different layers. I went up in a plane just on Tuesday. Took a little private flight on a Cessna 172, because I hadn't been on a plane since 1996. And that was one of the things, like I said, I'm still not sure about this thing.
Okay.
I wanted to go up in a plane and see how far I could look on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up in a little Cessna 172 for about an hour. The highest we went was about 3,000 feet. But you go through layers, different temperature layers, clouds and stuff like that. Same thing in the water. Under the water, you have different temperature layers. And depending on the temperature of the water, the buoyancy of the submarine can be heavier or lighter, depending on the water temperature. So you could hit a pocket and all of a sudden feel light or heavy. Now, it doesn't shift like an airplane, like you get turbulence. It's kind of the same thing, but it's much more subtle. You don't really feel it, but because it takes a long time for the buoyancy of the submarine to change. It could take 30 minutes, an hour, to feel the effects of it. But if you get your submarine on depth, let's just pick a depth of 200 feet, zero bubble, at a certain speed, control surface is zero, it's not going to take you very long to notice that you're going to be going off depth, because now your reference is the surface of the water, nothing to do with the bottom of the ocean.
Okay.
Reference is the surface of the water, according to mainstream science, has a curve to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're at 200 feet, maintaining control surface is zero, and we can maintain depth within 1/10 of a foot on a submarine.
Okay.
So our instruments, we have digital readout. If you're at 200 feet, if you go to 199.9, you're going to know it. 199.8, 199.7. So after a while, it's not going to take you that long.
It's time for a little adjustment. Are you ready?
Welcome back to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, with Jonathan from Jersey. And, I forgot that guy from England. He was asking, this soundtrack just reminded me of it. He asked, hey, what was that song? Anyone wants to know what the opening credits track is? That is Danny Elfman singing The Little Things. And Danny Elfman, who used to be the lead singer for Oingo Boingo, I think back in the 80s, I think he founded that band. And then he's most known for the Simpsons theme. Dun, 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 dun.
That blows my mind how much music that guy's made.
Oh, he has made a lot of music.
Yeah.
A ton of music. And real quick, before we get right back into this, take 2 seconds. Every once in a while, I get chat while we're doing this. And I just want a quick shout out to a fellow prepper out there in the world who happens to be cleaning rifles as we speak. Hope it goes well for you. And yeah, let's just end it at that. So we're gonna go get right back into our interview with our pre-recorded interview with Jason from the United States Navy. He's a submarine chief electronics technician. And in this segment, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, I think Robert joins us on this one.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it starts to get really, really interesting. So let's get right to it.
Cool.
after a while, it's not going to take you that long before you're poking your nose out of the surface of the ocean on a curved globe.
Yeah, because
Why?
because if it's curved, the calculations, the sub is going to want to go up. It's naturally going to go up.
Yeah, because it's just driving through the water.
Yeah,
it only maintains depth by how we control it. It doesn't do it on its own.
Yeah.
So it's just this. It's like taking a pencil. If you just took a pencil, imagine you're holding this pencil in the ocean. You're a huge giant. Okay, you're holding a pencil in the ocean and you're pushing it straight across.
Yeah.
Completely straight. After a while, the tip of that pencil is going to come out of the curve of the ocean.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you're not maintaining depth, you have your control surface zero, your bubble zero, and after a while you're going to run out of you're just going to run out of curve.
Hmm.
And I don't know if people can understand how I'm saying that. Can you guys understand that?
Yeah, because this is the argument, the airplane argument,
Exactly.
and that is if the airplane, because submarines are really just airplanes in the ocean, like you had said, and if the airplane stays level, if it tries to stay level, eventually the curve is going to drop down below them, and it's just going to keep increasing altitude. And if they had infinite power, they would escape the orbit of the Earth.
Yeah, and we were doing that at 172. I was actually flying it for about 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and we're going along.
Yeah,
and we're at about 1,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually over the ocean, just right off the shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's flat for the ice for as far as you can see. I think according to calculations, I was able to see about 67 miles out.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the tape that I took, and I'm going to try to pick any landmarks that are 67 miles out on a map and see if I can actually see them on the tape.
Okay.
But what I noticed was we were doing about 100 miles per hour. And he had the what do you call them? The elevators. You can lock in the rear elevators on the airplane at a certain angle to maintain your altitude.
Okay.
All right, and that's what we were doing. All we were basically doing was moving the stick to fight the crosswinds. But we were flying along without nudging the nose down, nudging the nose up, or nothing like that.
Yeah.
For a long time. I'd say at least minutes and minutes, and we're maintaining our altitude within about 10 feet.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit of turbulence, making us go up and down a little bit. But we weren't fighting altitude. We were just flat as a pancake.
Yeah, and that's what a couple of people. There's one in particular that took and I can't remember what the app is called, on his mobile phone on a flight from New York, I think, to London, and he said that even the commercial jets should be nosing down ever so slightly, every once in a while, if they're doing 500 miles an hour, to adjust for the curvature. Yeah. And it wasn't doing it at all, ever.
You see, you know what? I was in a class back in high school, like an aeronautics class, and I asked my teacher once, I said, how come the Concorde, when they go up that high at high altitude, they're not afraid of getting sucked out into space? And this guy hated me because I would ask these kind of questions all the time. And he takes a heavy book and he drops it and he says, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, gravity." But now I don't feel so stupid because obviously I was asking a legit question.
Yeah. So
I've talked to no less than 4 pilots. The guy that I talked to on the Cessna 172, the guy that was on the ground in the lobby. I have 2 neighbors. One of them was a pilot in the Marine Corps for 20 years, and he flew for a commercial, what do you call it, packages. One of those companies.
Hey, you were breaking up there for a second. Can you repeat that last 10 seconds?
Okay, he flew for the Marine Corps for 20 years, and he also flew for a commercial carrier for 10 years. It was at least 10 years. And when I asked him about how do you guys compensate for gravity and how do you compensate for the curvature of the Earth, he didn't know how to answer it because nobody's ever asked that before. And they don't compensate for gravity. I've never met a pilot yet that can tell me how they compensate for gravity. Because, I mean, you're talking about the strongest, basically the strongest force that's created by the planet, supposedly, but not a single person who flies above the ground or has to maintain buoyancy in the water considers gravity at all when they have to do their job doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And several people. I'm sorry, say that last part.
I was just going to say, if it's such a powerful force, why is everybody ignoring it?
Excellent. Yeah, which is why the airplane argument and now the submarine argument comes into play, which is you can't say, because you can't have it both ways. Because some people says, well, you're not nosing down in an airplane or a submarine because gravity is automatically pulling you down. It's like, okay, then you're nosing up to compensate for the pull down. You can't say that it's perfectly balanced if you keep it level, and there's this wonderful equilibrium where gravity is, keeping you right in that same place. It doesn't work like that. You would always have to adjust one way or the other.
It all sounds fantasy. When you really think about what they tell us gravity does, how it on a galactic scale, how all the planets are held together in these elliptical orbits. And certain moons spin around this planet, and these planets all spin around the sun, and we're all going through the galaxy. And it's all held together by gravity, but it doesn't all crash together because of gravity either.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So let me ask you, because
what do I know?
The what?
What do I know? I'm just a sub guy.
Yeah, you're just a sub guy. That's good you mentioned this, because I talked about it briefly in your intro. But so you basically did a whole bunch of tours from 1988 to 2008, and we're not going to list what types of subs you were on, but you were on small ones, really really big ones,
I was virtually almost every type there was that we had.
Really?
Yeah, all five were different than. They were all different types.
You mentioned, you said that we've got some that are over 600 feet.
Almost 600 feet. I was just round numbers.
Those are things. That's huge.
Yeah, I was on two fast attacks.
Mm-hmm.
One was a vertical launch capability, taking a launch tomahawks and harpoons. Another one was we did secret squirrel kind of stuff. If I talked about it, I'd have to kill both of you.
Thanks.
Probably wouldn't regret killing John so much, but. I'm just kidding, John. I know you guys like to pick at each other.
No, that's all right.
I
just make a note of it and move on.
I have no chops compared to Jersey here. I grew up in a very sheltered area where he apparently just beat the crap out of people on a daily basis since he was like 4. So
I always tell Mark, I said, I'm half Portuguese and half Italian. That means I'm qualified to both make the hit and pour the cement shoes. So it's your burial at sea. I have no problem with it.
Nice burial.
I used to live next door to a Portuguese lady, and she made the best salsa.
I think you're going to say like rejoins or like something that's Portuguese, but salsa. Okay, I'll take it.
Where is it? I've actually been to Portugal. We went to Lisboa.
Okay.
Lisbon.
Okay.
Yeah, it was nice.
Cool. Hey, so when you say secret squirrel stuff, you're just talking, mission, because submarines, if I'm not mistaken, they get sent on the really, really cool stuff sometimes.
Yeah, this is like you got to sign pieces of paper that you won't talk about it for 75 years and stuff.
Great. Yeah. That's super.
And, but I've been on the missile boats, deterrent patrols, and stuff like that. So, and I was. Even one of them was an old missile boat converted to what we called a slow approach. We did special ops training and stuff that for Navy SEALs and things like that.
Yeah, but not for nothing. In the movies, they always make it look cool to be in a submarine because here it is coming out of the dark, but basically you're just in the dark, driving through the dark.
Well, you remember The Hunt for Red October is a great submarine movie.
Right.
Yeah, probably the best.
Every bit of that. Almost every bit of that movie is completely true when it comes to submarines, their capability.
Wow.
Even the Caterpillar drive, the Japanese actually have a submarine that utilizes the semiconductor Caterpillar-like drive system.
And it's ultra quiet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. it can only go super slow. But
so you were on all these ships, and were they all nuclear?
Yeah, all of our submarines have been nuclear for quite some time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you see some of the older movies, but I didn't realize that they were all. That makes sense though, because it's way more efficient. Because you guys are down there for what's the longest time? And you don't, if it's classified, you don't have to say. What's the longest time you were personally down? At how long?
Classified.
Oh, it is classified. All right.
No, good. The longest I did without actually even putting out. We have like a snorkel mask where we would suck in fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
It was 72 days where we didn't even get fresh air.
Oof.
Right? That brings me up to something else I want to bring up later about the ISS. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, let me make a note of that real quick because I don't want to forget it. So during that entire time, hang on, I got to write this down. ISS. During that entire time, because I've got to ask you because the question keeps coming up now. I talked to my second surveyor today. He was a highway surveyor. We had the other guy, commercial surveyor, but they all say the same thing. It's like yeah, curvature never came up. It was never it never came up in conversation ever for anything. And they all added, it's like, yeah, we knew about it in theory. We just never practiced it professionally. It was like something was like a paragraph in a book, blah, 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 curvature. Did you ever use it in real life? Nah.
I wish, well, if I could go back in time, because I don't know how much time I've spent looking out of a periscope, being up on the bridge, at night, just looking out over the whole ocean. I've been through the Panama Canal twice. Mm-hmm. And you can see, it seems like you can see from one side of the canal to the other.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just, looking back, like, man, it's, Robert was talking about the navigation tracks where he said sometimes it seemed like it would take longer to get across sometimes than other times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes you go across and they do it in 2 weeks, but sometimes you go across and they do it in 12 days.
Well, see, this is one thing that I also came to my mind is I was on 5 different submarines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did missions from close to the North Pole under the ice to drug interdiction stuff down in the Caribbean Ocean. Okay. But I have never met, the whole time I was in, I never met anybody that ever did any kind of ops down in the South Atlantic or the South Pacific, closer to the Antarctica.
Seriously?
Yeah, I can't think of anybody who's ever done anything like that.
Because you would have thought that would have come up in conversation at least once. It's just like, oh yeah, where'd you been? I mean, because if you say the furthest south you went was what, the Caribbean?
Well,
just north of South America.
The equator. It's about
okay, but you didn't, but no, you didn't spend any time in the South Atlantic, the South Pacific, the Indian.
Nope.
Well, wait. When you say you don't mean anybody, you're just talking about submarines.
Yeah, submarines. Yeah, I don't know of anybody on a submarine who's did patrols south of the equator.
No, that's strange.
Wait, what?
In a way, I guess it kind of can make sense because submarines are military. Any of our military threats are all north of the equator, anyway.
True.
So
true.
No, they do a deterrent patrol or hunt for enemy fast attacks because they're probably not going to be there.
So wait. In general, submarines don't go below?
Well, I don't know. I just don't know of anybody. I never did, and I don't know of anybody that ever did anything.
All right, which map are we referring to here when you say south of the equator?
Well, I mean,
either one.
Either one. I mean, so in 20 years, and you seem like a fairly social guy. Never, nobody seemed to. You didn't run into me. It's like, yeah, we went down to we did the Horn, Cape Horn,
Right? Yeah, that would make sense.
or we went off South Africa, or went off anywhere down there.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody has done that. Well, I don't know why anybody would do more.
No, that's interesting. That's really interesting. So if anybody's
he's pulling our leg now, man. This is a Navy guy. You got to be careful with these guys.
no, if any,
the only ships that go around the Horn are the ones that can't fit through the canal.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's
yeah, but what are those? I mean, carriers can fit through the canal.
I think so.
Because I'm pretty sure that they widened the canal specifically to handle the bigger class of United States Navy ships, just ever so slightly, because they didn't want them going around the Horn. Now there may be something out there. You're right. That's wide, super wide. Something that's.
Oh yeah, they do have some super tankers that can.
Yeah. Oh wait, hang on. Had a long. Keep talking. One sec. I completely slept. Okay, hang on. Robert's around. So one sec. Let me see if we can bring on Robert from the Iwo Jima. From the Iwo Jima.
Is that what I'm hearing?
One sec. Hey, Jonathan, can you go ahead and invite Robert?
All right, let me see if I can grab him here.
1 second.
I couldn't find him on my list because I was actually looking for Robert.
What did I say, Robert? Oh no, yeah, you can't use Robert's
right.
not his, yeah, Robert's.
Hey, serious question here though.
What?
If it does turn out that
what's going on?
Hey, Robert.
What's up, man?
Robert, you got Jason with you. Jason's a submarine. He says submarines can beat you guys, 6 days a week and twice on Sundays.
Sure.
Hey, I got a quick story about that.
Okay, go ahead.
Right.
So, I'm sorry. Just so we have everybody on the same page here, Robert is a Sea Sparrow missile instructor, served on the Iwo Jima, and Jason has served on 5 nuclear submarines from 1988 to 2008. You got out in 2008, and listened to our show the other night with you, Robert, and now he's saying, you know what, he may be onto something. So, I'm sorry. So, what was your quick story, Jason?
Oh, I was going to say, I've done several different training exercises where we would have a anti-submarine warfare group, and they have to practice going around trying to chase submarines and find them and all that kind of stuff. And when you do that, you're given a strict set of waypoints, a track that you have to follow and run along. And all different ships have their areas that they're going to drive around and try to find the submarine, right? Well, what we would do...
Hey, hang on 1 second. Hey, okay. Hey, Robert? Robert?
Yeah.
Mute your mic if you've got something going on in the background.
There you go. I muted him.
Okay, we're good. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
And in part of the exercise, it would tell us, us the submarine, that when you get to a certain waypoint, go to a certain depth, and at a certain time, it would be in the instructions. This is what we had to do. At a certain time, we would have to beat on the hull with a hammer to make noise to try to help the ships find us.
Whoa.
Yeah. So if without us beating on the hull with a hammer, there's no way they could ever find it.
What were you beginning to say before Robert came on the? You're starting to tell us something else.
Yeah. I was going to ask a serious question here.
Oh, what?
If it turns out that let's just say, if it turns out that the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
That's what happens. What are the Harlem Globetrotters going to call themselves?
That's your serious question. And that dates you, by the way. Harlem Globetrotters.
I'm not even sure if they're still around, are they?
You believe it or not, they are. They, they're not what they were in the 70s and early 80s.
Speaking of people that are still around, I told you Felipe Rose came in today, right? The Indian guy from the Village People.
Oh, right, the Indian guy from the Village People. You actually knew him. Yeah,
we're good friends. And I said to him, you're still performing on that. I said, haven't you considered changing your name to the Village Elders at this point?
That's funny.
Anyway.
That's good stuff. So, let's do this. So, just so we're clear, let's recap so far. So, a submarine treats the water much like an airplane. It elevates, it declines, and you're saying with the systems on board, it basically, if the world is truly round, you guys, the systems you've got are going to just keep pushing you towards the surface until you do surface, which is the equivalent of an airplane leaving the Earth's atmosphere.
Exactly.
Wow, that is nutty. Hey, Robert, are you there?
He's blipping. It says busy now. I don't know what happened.
Kill him and put him back on.
All right,
Robert, if you can hear me, we're going to knock you off and put you back on. Meanwhile, he says he's having issues with the call. That's okay. We can kill him and put him back on. It's pre-record. Who cares?
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'll be a little editing for Jonathan, but that won't be too bad. Or I can chop it up if I have to. So all this time, what I also thought was interesting was that you ran into, and I know that, you probably heard us or you listened to the clues where in those three southern oceans, the South Atlantic, the South Pacific, and the Indian, planes drop off the GPS system. Oh, which reminds me, you probably, like the ships above, do not use the GPS system as your primary. You probably use something proprietary.
Oh, on board the subs?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have a gyro system.
Okay. And the gyro system, is that identical? And I think Robert actually mentioned that to me when he was talking to me today, which was it's very similar to the one. Or is yours special because you're in a 3D world underneath and the ships are in a 2D world? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
most ships, I would imagine the ship that Robert's on, it might even still use a Mark 19 gyro. That was one of the things I was going to ask him. The submarines generally use something that's a little more high tech. Let me just put it that way. I don't know how much I can get into describing that stuff without.
No worries. I mean, as people, look, you have enough. You used enough terms that I don't think people are going to be questioning your credibility. Believe it or not, very few people questioned Robert's credibility.
Well, we'll put it this way: the navigation systems on board a submarine, we could. And this happened to us a few times. When you're on station, you're doing some secret squirrel stuff. And what you would do every day, at least once a day, usually twice a day, you would go to periscope depth, pop up an antenna, and get a GPS fix, which means it'll tell you, hey, you connect to a bunch of satellites from what they tell me. Looking back, I'm like, well, that's one of the questions I have about how does that stuff really work out in the middle of the ocean. But I did do some research and remind me about that too.
Okay.
And you just go up and you're up there for maybe 5 minutes. You get a GPS fix, downloaded it into the system electronically, and boom, you go back down. Sometimes we wouldn't be able to do that for a couple of weeks. And we would be within 200 yards of where we thought we were going to be.
But you were still trying to confirm with the GPS system, although and this actually confirms what we already knew, which was if you never did a submission above or below the equator, and that's where the systems drop off, then whatever. I still firmly believe that the GPS system is not sky-based, or it's only partially sky-based. Using a go ahead.
Research into that.
Okay.
And, there's a system called LORAN. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it. Yeah, people have mentioned this one to me.
Long Range Navigation, I think is what it stands for.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly, I don't even think it's supposed to be even in use anymore. But the LORAN system, from the advertised specs, what they tell us the capabilities are, we're able to project a signal 1,500 nautical miles. So if you have LORAN stations on either side of the Atlantic Ocean, you're from the advertised specs, what they tell us the capabilities are, we're able to project a signal 1,500 nautical miles. So
Wow.
if you have Loran stations on either side of the Atlantic Ocean, you're hitting the middle of the ocean.
Sure.
You should be in the middle of the ocean, and that's the advertised range. Who knows what the
Exactly. Yeah, like two-way radios, they say, "Oh yeah, we can do 50 miles," but that's under completely optimum conditions.
right.
So,
Right. For all we
so
know, hey, the military capability could be 4,000 miles. We don't know.
could maybe, but at the same time, wouldn't you want to use that to your advantage in the southern hemisphere? Meaning, why does the GPS system drop all the planes? And people have rattled off all sorts of fun excuses to me, but why does the planes drop off about 150, 200 miles offshore? And go to estimated or approximate mode, and then they literally drop off the screen.
Yeah, I've seen that on those websites. I went to them myself and looked.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's because there's really not a whole lot in the southern hemisphere when you really think about it.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, it is a DoD system, and you don't advertise it as a global positioning system if it's not a global system.
Right.
If you're down there, you're going to track the planes, and which is why I made the argument. I know I was kind of appealing to the American heart, which was, look, your family's flying down there, and they're not being tracked. The Malaysian flights, I don't know how many Americans, if there were any on that flight, but the Malaysian flights, when they dropped off, they're saying, oh yeah, they weren't being tracked when they dropped off, which is why we had a real hard time trying to find any wreckage.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's and again, the fact that you say, oh yeah, by the way, I didn't know any submarines that actually went to the southern hemisphere. But hey, Robert, are you on or is he gone again?
I still can't grab him.
That's weird. I wonder what's going on with him. I was going to ask him because that fleets go down there. Of course, I mean there's all sorts of ships that do work in the southern hemisphere. But what he was saying was, and I don't know if you heard that part, was that they turned them around when they were around South America. Instead of keeping them going, if they were close to the Horn, they didn't go around the Horn. They kept diverting them back to the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this real quick? Being that it's a pre-record, why don't we drop off and reconnect? Maybe it's,
and use
glitch.
them. You want to grab them first?
Yeah, let me grab them
Sure.
first.
Okay, guys, we're going to kill you guys, and then we're going to bring them back on. Jonathan will grab you guys first.
Cool.
Okay. So we're now live. We're not in the pre-record anymore. What happened there was Robert, who was trying to connect with us, had some problems, and only after, only later did Jonathan and I figure out that it was probably the DoD that was screwing up his connection. Would you agree, Jonathan?
See, they've got me now.
Anyway, so as we're getting to the next section that Jonathan's going to queue up, we reconnect with Robert, and now finally we get Robert and Jason together to both Fleet and Submarine to talk about the possibility of a flat Earth. So, you ready?
Here we go.
There we go.
It was going on hold when I was trying to talk to him. It kept dropping back to hold.
Well,
Yep.
No worries.
well,
So, and Jason's still there, right?
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
Jason and
Yeah.
Robert. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so where did we leave off? We left off on the
I don't know.
the surface guys think they're really tough shit, and the sub guys.
I'm out of beer.
No.
No.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So the what Robert was saying was that the fleets had to turn around even when you didn't expect them to. So they would, when they were close to to Cape Horn, they would turn around, go through Panama. Did you, Jason? Did you run into that too?
No, we never went that far south.
Oh, got it.
The equator was as far as I've ever gone.
Okay. Hey, well, that's a good follow-up question for Robert, which is, did you notice, Robert, that did you ever know anyone? I mean, of course, there's fleets in the southern hemisphere all the time, but did you ever hear of any subs in the summer? Did you ever have to deal with any subs below the equator that you can remember?
Honestly, no. If they were down there with us, we didn't know anything about it, because usually that's how it plays out mostly, even throughout normal operations. Like, we'll have some type of sub with us, but we'll probably never see him. Maybe even the whole deployment.
Got it. But so
That's usually what happens. Sometimes we just go off and do our own thing.
Yep.
Huh. So even if you had a sub when you first started out, if they were there, you just didn't know where they were because they were doing their own thing.
Pretty much.
Right. Yeah, because you have a group task force, and you have a certain amount of ships assigned to it. And usually they'll have a submarine assigned to it also, but the submarines are usually off doing their own thing. Got it.
Hey, Jason, you mentioned the type of gyro you were using, the type of navigation system you were wondering if Robert was using the same stuff.
Yeah. Did you guys? Do you know what kind of gyro compass you guys used on board ship?
We used the Wizen 7.
Okay. Do you have a Mark 19 for the backup then, or a 27?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, that makes sense. That's a little more modern.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and those navigation systems they're pretty damn accurate.
Yeah, it's a laser gyro as well. The Wizen 7 is, so it's extremely accurate.
Ring laser gyro, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Wizen 7 RLTN. Yeah, actually, the one of the subs I was on was the first submarine to. We were the first one installed with ring laser, and we were the first one to take it under the ice.
Okay, cool.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Are you going to approach the Antarctic thing like for either one? Like,
well, yeah. Well, I might as well. Well, in Jason's case, he never went below the equator, so it's not going to make any difference. But with Robert's case, did you ever talk to anybody? Might as well ask this, since it's got to come up eventually. Somebody's going to ask. Did you ever hear of anybody that did work, at least even reach the coast, that was doing work in the bases down in Antarctica?
I have talked to people that have claimed to have went down there and worked, but I'll tell you this, and you know, this retired chief, he'll probably agree with me, Jason. We never once ever dealt with any regular Navy or regular Marines or any of that stuff that was ever, you never heard anyone ever being stationed down there. Which always led me to believe that it was a different section of the military, not necessarily tied to any certain branch, because they have, military operations down there. Apparently it's all guarded off. That's apparent. Yeah. But yeah, you never see the regular standing forces ever. It's not like we have our CMS ID pop up and they tell us, oh yeah, there's orders available down here.
Yeah. Hey, I would say if it's any branch of the military, it would be the Air Force.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They're the ones involved in the DV stuff.
Well, that's true, because they're the ones that are flying everybody in and out every 6 months.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be, it's not Navy, because otherwise you would have heard about it. It's not regular Navy delivering these guys out down there. It's Air Force, probably.
Well, I don't know. That doesn't say either.
Maybe.
Heard about it. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on that completely. Yeah.
I mean, not to make any correlation to other things, but the planes that are flown into Groom Lake, they're flown by somebody, and they're obviously military, but you don't know who they are. Whoever's flying the commuters in there. Yep. Interesting, though. Wow, that's really cool.
I think the last open expedition down to Antarctica, where it was transparent who all went down there, was when Admiral Byrd did it. Yeah.
Operation Deep Freeze was the last official, what you said, open expedition. Everything else was kind of like, oh yeah, we did this or we did this, but there's nothing really behind it.
And he didn't live very long after all that, did he?
Good point. Yeah, his last mission was Deep Freeze 1956. It ended in 56, and then he died in 57. And he was in his early 60s, and people say, well, it was a heart attack, and he could have died of natural causes, or, but he enjoyed being on camera. It could have been very easily, just one of those voting situations where it's like, okay, do we let him go on tour like we did before and hope he doesn't screw up on national television? And,
he died of a heart attack, just like Admiral Borda killed himself. There's no doubt between any of that stuff.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I'm trying to do the silver lining thing and think, but truth was, yeah, he was a very fit man. He led all his expeditions. Hardy.
And that's why I'm questioning this.
Because of Admiral Byrd?
No, it's just all of that stuff. Well, when you go back and you look at all the things that you've been lied about.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just take this Virginia shooting.
Yeah.
I don't want to go off on a tangent, but have you guys looked into that?
Yeah, I have.
You mean the newscaster?
Yeah, no brass is coming out of that weapon. You got the Hollywood flashes coming out of the muzzle.
Yeah,
I couldn't see the slide rack back, even though it was slowed down to 30 times. But the kicker on that is did you see the overhead shot?
Yeah.
The cameraman was lying on the ground.
Are you talking about the video too, where the guy shows it in slow motion progressively?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look at the shooter footage on his little camera and the cameraman's footage, if you look at the deck boards behind the woman under the overhang, those deck boards run parallel to the rail. Where they're standing on run perpendicular to the rail.
Yeah.
If you look at the photo from the helicopter taken later that morning with the guy's body still laying there, all of the deck boards run perpendicular to the rail, even the ones under the overhang.
Interesting. Jonathan, what'd you have?
I was going to say, for any of the listeners, this is going out to everybody. I'm the ultimate conspiracy nut. I was listening to Bill Cooper on shortwave radio before Alex Jones was even a blip on the radar. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't like to commit to anything on air, but what's that?
June 2001 broadcast.
Hey, you know what? I got a question for either one of you guys, because it was something. So I get phone calls and I get emails from different people. They say, "Yeah, I might be able to help. I might be able to help." And I got a call, an interesting call, not from a surveyor, but he was an industrial valve technician. He worked at an industrial valve plant and specialized. That's all he'd done pretty much his entire life, and he wasn't that old. And he said, "Hey," he goes, "there's something really strange about." I'm going to tie this in with what you said, Jason, which is the ISS. And you can. I'm going to tie you into what I think you're going to talk about, circulated air. And he goes, there's something really strange about that. And he goes, every submarine. He goes, because the industrial valve sector is really tied to submarines. We deal, because somebody has to make them, and we have to make them. He goes, but. He goes, even no matter what we have to make it, and confirm this or deny this right off the bat, he goes, every submarine has a full-blown machine shop on board to make adjustments to things and make pieces on the fly because you're underwater. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Drill presses, lathes, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards. He goes, because some of those valves are very, very, the tolerances are very tight. And he goes, last time I checked, you don't have a full-blown machine shop on the ISS. He goes, what are they doing for their seals between compartments? And he goes, on top of that, there's lubricants for the seals. He goes, what equipment? He goes, because machine shops are extremely heavy. They're just huge blocks of metal. He goes, how would you even put those in there? Where would you do it? Who's working on this stuff? He goes, it doesn't exist. He goes, that the ISS could never function as long as it did with the equipment they're using.
Yeah.
And you said you mentioned, because you wanted me to remind you that you guys don't pop up to circulate your air very often.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know a whole lot about the ISS. This is a whole recent revelation to me. I didn't give.
Yeah, but compare it to a submarine, because he was.
But how long has the ISS been up in space?
Long time. Years.
Okay, well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Not only do they have to deal with either the atmosphere or the lack of atmosphere around the ISS, mm-hmm. but they have to manage the difference between that atmosphere and the atmosphere inside, because you can only like on a submarine, we can only draw our atmosphere down to a certain pressure to where it becomes dangerous for the people inside, All right, because you have to have atmospheric pressure at a certain level. It's like climbing a high mountain. You go up to a certain altitude. You have the same percentage of oxygen in that air, but the atmospheric pressure is so low, you're not getting the cubic feet per minute or cubic inches per minute of oxygen into your system.
Yeah, like commercial planes will set it, because I had an altimeter on my watch when I was traveling, and they set it between about 3,500 and 5,000 feet, roughly, in the interior pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
Now with the ISS, here's what happens when you have people in an enclosed area. They off-gas certain contaminants. Carbon dioxide is the biggest one.
Yeah.
You have equipment that gives off carbon monoxide. Anytime you have anything heat producing, you're going to make carbon monoxide. You use up oxygen. If I remember correctly, the human body, we use about 0.83 cubic feet per hour of oxygen.
Okay.
Right. Now, in a submarine, you have to calculate that for that. So if you're not going to be recirculating your area anytime soon, and you get your oxygen level down to a certain point, normal levels about, I think it's 20.5%. Our low tolerance level on a submarine was 17%. All right. Usually when we started to get down around 19%, we would do an oxygen bleed. Now, from what I understand, they have oxygen generators on the ISS. Okay.
Okay.
They claim they can make oxygen. All right. Now they're going to have to make oxygen at a rate of 0.83 standard cubic feet per minute, or standard cubic feet per hour, or greater, just to keep up with the amount of people that are breathing it.
Sure.
They have 10 people on board. They're going to have to make oxygen or bleed oxygen into the atmosphere at a rate of 10 cubic feet per hour, standard cubic feet per hour, or they're going to die.
Okay.
Not going to make enough oxygen. Let's see. Now, along with the oxygen generator, in order to make oxygen in an oxygen generator, you just can't put regular water in there. It has to be purified water. Okay? Because it's the process is called electrolysis, where you pretty much run a current through the water, and it splits the hydrogen and the oxygen.
Correct.
You take now you've got hydrogen. Okay.
Yep.
Hydrogen, left all on its own, filling spaces is a bad thing. It's an explosion.
Yeah.
So now you got to harness the hydrogen. So I want to know how they're harnessing the hydrogen up there. And then you got to pump it overboard. Okay.
Yeah.
Now with all this is said and done, if you put people in a contained atmosphere, over time, the atmospheric pressure is going to lower, because you're pumping, they have their CO2 scrubbers, carbon monoxide scrubbers, and all that stuff on board. What they're doing is they're cleaning the air, and they have to get rid of those contaminants. You got to pump them overboard. It's the only way you can get rid of them is pump them overboard.
Yeah.
So over time, you're pumping these contaminants outside of the people tank, and over time, that lowers the pressure. So I want to know, over all these years, how are they keeping that pressure up? They can't be doing it with just pure oxygen.
Yeah. Good point. And if the let me throw one more at you, and that is, if this system, which sounds way more sophisticated, well, okay, the short version is, why isn't the United States military using this for their submarines? If it's so great, if you can actually stay up, if they can stay up there for years, because you guys have to surface every once in a while to swap out air.
Yeah.
Right. But they're not ever. So why isn't, and the military has a great budget from what I hear. Why wouldn't submarines be retrofitting to these things a long time ago?
And they actually supposedly use some of the same equipment that we've used on submarines. Their atmosphere monitoring system is
but that's
the exact same thing we use on submarines.
Yeah.
But where are they getting the fresh air?
Yeah.
Can't be being flown up to them all the time. Dragon and SpaceX doesn't make a flight every few days,
It only lasts so long.
And I can confer with that, because I already know what he's referring to with the 20% thing.
Yeah.
You could have any gas-free engineer that's served in the Navy come and talk to you about that. It's all about percentages, and if they just keep dumping contaminants out, they are depressurizing their cabin every single time they do it. And just the simple act of hydrolysis isn't enough to put enough pressure back into their enclosed cabin. It's just not.
I think they put all that pressure back in when they use all that hairspray for the women.
Yeah. If you guys haven't watched, I don't know if you've watched any of the ISS. Yeah, that's brilliant. You know, the one that I liked that, again, everybody misses the most obvious thing was he goes, wait, where are the hatches that are between the segments? He goes, every in a thing like that where it's, it's supposed to be airtight, he goes, where are the freaking doors between the sections? Because either they were there and you took them out and you chucked them, or they were never there to begin with, which means if something goes wrong in any part of that station, the smallest hole, those guys walking around their khakis and their polo shirts, they're doomed. It's like, that's a whole other thing. It's like, why are they going around in khakis and polo shirts?
But wait. As far as atmosphere, when we're talking about atmosphere, like our atmosphere here is 81% nitrogen.
Yeah.
So they don't fill the cabin with nitrogen as well, do they?
Oh, good point.
About 79% nitrogen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually 20.7 oxygen, and then minuscule amounts of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and argon.
Right.
Yeah. And can I just say something real quick?
Yeah,
kind
go
of touching
ahead.
on that. I've done a lot of research on the ISS. I know Jason hasn't had a chance to yet, but not only to mention the pressurization thing, they act all nonchalant in, decompartmentalized spaces that are just all arbitrarily connected together, all while flying around 17,000 miles an hour with the doom and gloom of, thousands and thousands of micrometeoroids slamming into you, having that risk every single hour, and they're just walking around like nothing's dangerous. And, I'm not making this up. This is their claim. They claim that, thousands and thousands of tons of micrometeoroids are flying through close to our atmosphere every single day throughout the year, and they're slamming into the moon, and they're never supposedly like running into the ISS ever.
Yeah. Well, man, you saw that piece of crap film. I mean, it was cool for the graphics, but Gravity 2013. Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
I mean, not only was she lucky. I mean, talk about a movie where crap's flying all over the place, and she's making it, by fourth and inches, always making it right past the danger. Yeah. But like you said, why should they be scared if they're filming it in a studio or deep under, in some big tank in
Yeah, that's the Apollo argument, which most people don't even talk about, which is forget about all the camera techniques and the lighting thing and the lack of gravity in the wires and all the crap that was used on the Apollo stuff. It's the attitude that bugged me, because these guys are walking around. I mean, every time they fell, I'm going, man, if I fell in a first-time usage spacesuit for like this on the ground, I would be scared to death that someone was going to puncture my my. And they're playing golf, they're driving around in mood buggies, none of which we saw got put together, and they couldn't have been. They were singing, doing all this fun stuff. I was going, the only thing I would be thinking about on that moon is mission, whatever my mission is.
How do I not die?
Yeah, how do I not die and get the hell out of there? Because you would never be that nonchalant. But yeah, like you're saying, in a studio, that it starts to take over, because you're kind of cracking jokes, kind of like an outtake reel on a real studio, because that's where the fun stuff happens. Everyone's like going, because they know no matter what happens, they're going to live through it. It's not a big deal to them, and they should have edited all that stuff out, and they didn't.
Yeah, and people criticize us. I've read some of the comments on the interview that I've done. Mm-hmm. I expected it, but people want to criticize us for believing what we believe. Just imagine this, America. Your taxpayers' dollars every year go to a bunch of clowns that pretend they're in space, and they're just all nonchalant about it. Never once has anyone ever taken a satellite picture of an upside-down city from the perspective of space. Never once has anyone ever had the open commercialization of space travel. Yep. SpaceX talks a good game, but we're apparently going to be going to Mars by, like 2020 or some, science fiction bullcrap like that.
Yeah.
You just look at it. Look at the attitude that runs behind it. Look at the people. Like, go out and do this research yourself. Look at who founded NASA. Look at all the order of progression of what happened for NASA's inception.
Welcome back to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent. With me is Jonathan from Jersey, and we just heard the last part of Joe Jackson's Steppin' Out. That concludes our musical interlude for the evening. Before that, it was 3 hours of Justin Bieber, followed by the Taylor Swift Hour of Power. Like that?
No, not really.
Oh, thanks, man. I rehearsed that.
That was good. That was smooth.
Thank you.
But not for tonight's topic. I mean,
Not for tonight's topic. I know we got to be serious. We're talking about. Oh, and a special shout out to all our Flat Earth friends out there who may be listening. Flat Earth friendship. Because negativity will not be tolerated. So, okay, so what you guys have just been listening to is the joint now interview with Jason from the Submarine, United States Navy Submarine Group, and Robert from the missile instructor for the United States Navy. And so far, it's an intriguing interview because now they're starting to compare, notes, and we're delving into a couple other topics, but we'll be circling back around to how the United States Navy and their equipment has really been not detecting anything when it comes to curvature, Coriolis effect, or really anything when it comes to the curvature.
Now we're not going to get it all done tonight. We're going to have about a good almost 45 minutes or so. So I was thinking, do you want to maybe have it on Thursday so people don't have to wait till next week?
Yeah.
We could do it in the first segment of my show.
Yeah, let's do that. So,
Okay.
because we just don't have enough time to finish up now, and we don't want to let everybody wait all the way until next Tuesday to do it. And so what we'll do is Thursday night. Am I going to be on with you, or we can have the finish us out on the first two segments, and then we can maybe have me, you, and maybe somebody else, on the third, just talking about it. Yeah. We'll let's drag somebody else in, and maybe
or take calls.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be good. That'd be fun.
Because a lot of people have calls by now.
Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic idea. So, okay, so for anybody that hasn't figured out what we're kind of talking about, we are going to we'll play out the rest of what we can, because the show ends in 20-something minutes. And then we will go straight in. We'll finish it for the evening. We'll cut it about 2 minutes left and do our sign-offs. And then Thursday night, from here, same network, Truth Frequency Radio, real people, real radio. We'll do Jonathan's show, Perceptions, and we will finish it up then. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, let's get back into it with the United States Navy and Flat Earth. Here we go, guys.
Got it.
NASA's inception. And, you don't even have to wonder about it anymore. At least it isn't for me. No. You look at any point of it, if the moon landings were a hoax, and you can clearly tell they are, and if you can't, then you probably shouldn't even be listening to this anymore, because you're so far off the reservation that there's no talking, in my opinion.
Excuse me, Captain Sergeant?
Yeah, what?
I think we should make Robert walk point on this flat Earth mission we're on.
What he said though does have to be said, and that is it's starting to get ridiculous now. I mean, there's starting to be a shift in thinking, because how many people, in fact, I was saying on the last interview I just did, which was how many people have to step forward before the debunkers just start crawling back into a cave,
right?
Because honestly, the people that are calling me now, we got military, both above and below. Air Force, where are you? I'm waiting for your call. We got land surveyors. We got that have built big tracts of land, stadiums and runways. I had a highway surveyor call me yesterday, industrial valve guy that says the ISS is a piece of crap and there's no way that anything is happening up there could be real. Who else do you want to have on? Seriously, email me. Let me know. Debunkers, email me. Tell me who has to come on and say something. And don't say it's from NASA. It's like, no, NASA has to come out and say it's bad. It's like, look, they're going to hold.
They're never going to.
Yeah, they're never going to break this because they can't, and most people understand it's the from the legal standpoint, the class action lawsuit against NASA, if they ever admit to anything, would be so
What are you
monstrous.
talking about lawsuit? We go right to executions. There's no lawsuit.
No, but you know what I mean. I mean the money involved. Every subcontractor would sue NASA immediately, and then every subcontractor to that subcontractor would sue. Oh, it would just be it'd be people would be tied up in court for years. But yeah, you're right, Jonathan. People should probably be strung up and then burned.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, did you add something, Jason?
Oh no, it was me.
No, wait, can I just say one thing? And I'm not going to joke around. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Robert. Like, there's another aspect to this. It really pisses me the F off. Okay,
what?
These are two men that are putting their lives on the line too. Like, they're signing to be in the military and serve.
Yeah,
and yet they're getting jerked around this flat planet or whatever you want to call it. This flat. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, hey,
that's part of the equation too. Not only are they screwing with the taxes, but
I'm giving both these guys props because at least they're doing real things.
Right.
It's like, look, you're on a ship. Hey, you're on a submarine. Fantastic. You're actually going out there and doing stuff.
Like, you guys aren't just like, and I've been around conspiracy circles 20 some odd years. You're just sitting there as an armchair conspiracy guy, spouting crap, whether you're a debunker or whatever. You guys are actually serving us. So thank you. First off, we didn't even get to thank you. But here you are putting it on the line too, possibly your careers with saying what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
I appreciate that.
It's
my career already ended, so
what are they going to do? Send you to a VA hospital? And what's the worst they can do?
I haven't been to a doctor since I've been out.
Right on.
That's probably good. Yeah. It's interesting, but at the same time, what I was telling Jonathan was because he was, and other people have asked me, it's like, aren't you worried that that people say something? It's like, really? Because what is naval intelligence going to do if they show up at your door and say, oh yeah, by the way, you can't talk about the subject you're talking about? It validates it right then and there. You can't say that.
Remember we were joking about that off air?
Yeah.
This is national security. What's national security? The thing we can't talk about. Talk about what? The thing that we don't want you talking about on air. But what am I talking about? Well, we can't discuss that with you because it's national security.
Yeah.
But we know, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's the weirdest subject because it's not like anything else. It's not like any other garden variety conspiracy.
Anything they want hidden, they just throw under the blanket of national security.
Yeah. So, yeah. The only thing go ahead, Robert.
Oh, I was just going to say, I honestly think that this perpetuation of this, you have one of two polar opposites. You either have this truth busting loose and they can't cover it anymore, or you'll have the other end of the spectrum that's been occurring for the past few decades of they've indoctrinated so many people to it that they'll either deem you as crazy or they'll just keep having people that play the disinformation just to throw everyone's sin off of it. And that's all that's been happening.
Well, that's a lot easier. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Angle I'm coming from. You guys remember the movie Dirty Harry?
Of course,
yeah.
All right, the beginning of the movie where there's the bank robbery and Clint goes out there and he starts shooting everybody up, and there's that one guy left, and Clint's starting to walk away from him. Well, he gives him the whole line: 44 Magnum, blow your head clean off. Shoot 5 or 6 times. You feel lucky.
Yeah.
Then Clint goes to walk away, and then the guy says, "Hey, man, I gots to know." And then Clint turns back around and points the gun at him, pulls the trigger, and click. Right?
Yeah.
That's me. I gots to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Whatever the thing is with this, I have to know the truth. And if Clint never looked at the guy, now granted, he didn't have to point the gun at him and pull the trigger. He could have, if the powers that be would just, hey, show me the gun, open up the cylinder, and show me, hey, is there one in there, or did you shoot all 6?
Yeah.
But the problem is there's just so many blankets of secrets behind all these different things, but when you start pulling away these little layers, you start finding more and more and more BS. And then you start.
Not for nothing though. When you explain it like that, that's almost as bad as Obama's transcripts for college. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's like if I went to college with Obama, I'd have pictures like, yeah, man, we drank. Here's me and him with a solo cup and a joint. Like, you think there'd be people coming out of the woodwork.
Oh, I came up with a new bumper sticker about that.
What?
It says the Obama administration, and then in black letters it says transparency with a one line through it. And it's translucent with a one line through it. Then it says transgender with a rainbow through it.
Oh,
God.
That's pretty good though.
Oh,
Seriously,
man.
seriously, put that on a thing and send me a graphic of it. I'll put it on somewhere. I'll put it in the slideshow.
Wait, hang on. I think I hear a helicopter.
Yeah, I know it.
Well, I got a question. I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not 100%. I don't know what the Earth is, flat, concave. Well, no, it's not concave, but flat, globe, or whatever. A triangle. Who knows? I mean, unless you get that far off perspective. So I have a question. I mean, there's actually a lot of questions I have, and I want to put it out there because there's probably people smarter than I am who can maybe figure these things out. But I have some questions I want to ask. Okay.
Sure.
Robert, you might know about this. You're familiar with gyroscopic precession, right? The laws of precession.
I am. I was actually talking to Mark about that yesterday.
Okay, now we're supposedly on a big ass gyro compass,
Mm-hmm.
spinning at 1,100 miles per hour at its outermost edge.
Yeah.
All right. And we're on this elliptical orbit around the sun.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what force is causing? Now, well, the mainstream science says the gravity of the sun is causing us to be in that elliptical orbit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to know how the force of that gravity being placed on this gyroscope that we call the spinning globe of Earth, why is it that those forces are not affecting us spinning like the laws of precession affect every other gyroscope that spins?
I agree. I actually know where you're going with this, because for anyone that doesn't know about gyros, you can go look this up. But gyroscopes, once they're spun up, their centrifugal force acts as kind of like an anti-gravity precession. Like they like to stay in whatever orientation they were whenever they're spun up to a certain RPM. All right. And I get where you're going with that because if we're supposedly affected by the same amount of gravity that keeps our Earth in orbit around an elliptical pattern, then why doesn't the sun throw all of our instruments off that we supposedly use? And if a gyroscope, we can actually see it work in, natural space, that's what we use as instruments for aircraft, ships, all that stuff. Our world is just like a big gyroscope that spins on an axis.
I thought about what you're saying, and I was thinking about this. Some people have said that the moon is hollow. That supposedly, if they landed there, they've pinged it, right? What if that thing's housing a gyroscope in it, a huge mechanical gyroscope, and it's kind of like counterbalancing what you're saying?
Yeah, we'll pretend that.
Well, in counterbalancing our gyroscope that we are the planet Earth?
Well, similar to like when you have a tire on a motorcycle or a car and you have to balance it, you put a little weight of like a half ounce or something, and that stabilizes the whole damn thing.
But you're assuming that the Earth is round at that point, or it's a globe at that point.
Yeah. I'm going off the assumption that mainstream science says we're on a spinning globe. Okay, and the laws of precession should apply to the spinning globe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it should.
Now, if the moon had its own compass, it wouldn't affect this one. That would just affect itself. It would keep it stabilized in space on its own. But you ask about the weights, okay? Like on a tire.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question about that. I did a little research. A regular car tire, you can throw it out of balance. If you take a perfectly balanced car tire and put a weight on it anywhere, just as little as a quarter of an ounce, you can throw that tire out of balance.
Correct.
Okay? Now, I'm going to read you some numbers. In 1 year, I think this was either 2013 or 2014. This is physical weight that has shifted in the world just going to China. Okay.
Okay.
933 million tons of steel, 17 million tons of coal, 150 billion cubic meters of water, 30 million tons of oil. That's just four things. Okay. So if we're supposedly on this spinning globe and we don't feel it out of balance, do we?
No.
Nope.
But things are constantly being moved around this thing all the time. And, I'm just talking, that's just a few things that have gone to China.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a lot of weight.
Interesting point.
Why aren't we ever thrown out of balance if we're spinning, especially at 1100 RPM or 1100
Exactly.
RPM?
Yeah.
You think that'd be something that NASA was worried about? Like, hey, let's restrict our trade with other countries. We don't want to shift too much weight around on the other side of the world.
Yeah, because it would come into play eventually. Sooner or later, that would come in.
Yeah. I want to know why the laws of precession don't apply to us, like other magical things in modern day science. Why is it we're never thrown out of balance with things being moved around the planet all the time? And I want to know if there's a way. Now, Robert, you're familiar with doing visual fixes, right?
Yes.
Okay. I want to know if there's a way we can get a number of people, because one of the things about the flat Earth thing is how far the moon and the sun are actually away from the Earth, right?
Yep.
I want to know if we can do a reverse visual fix on the moon. Now, what I mean by that is when you're on a ship coming through a channel or something like that, you do a visual fix by taking, on a submarine, we would use the periscope. We would point it onto like a water tower, and we get a bearing on it, like 300 degrees. The guy would mark that on the chart. And the guy, he'd go to the next thing, it might be at 025. Then he'd go to a third one, 180. And where those lines relative from the submarine to that visual aid, where those lines intersect on the water is where you're at. Okay? It's kind of like a GPS fix. GPS uses satellites to draw lines, imaginary lines to where your position is. So I'm wondering if we could have several people throughout the United States who are savvy with telescopes can get, I guess you'd have to use an azimuth and an angle to the center of the moon, and they would do it at the same time. And wherever
I know where he's
going
with that.
Wherever those lines would cross on that azimuth and that angle going up to the sky, wherever all those lines would cross is where the moon should be.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if it can work in a reverse fashion like that. I never really thought about it until a couple days ago. So I'm throwing it out there. Somebody might be real experienced at all this stuff, and they might have an answer. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Yep. And that's actually something that I mentioned the other day to you on your episode 21 when we did my interview with you. That tangent function that I described.
Yeah.
The same principle applies, because you can find out distance of an object based upon a triangulation of viewpoint. Because basically, like you said, you take an azimuth reading on it, and then you measure from the horizon to the said object how high it is. It's actually called a clinometer. And it's something that subs used back in the day to solve for their fire control solution whenever they had to read from the horizon to the top of a mast of how far something was away from them. That's actually how they did it.
It's basically how you line up your dish for dish TV or direct TV. They line up the dishes to the same thing. They just do it to a specific point in the sky, but we would be doing it lining up to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
And this theoretically could work. You could be able to figure out the distance, the actual distance of the moon at that point.
Yeah, you would have to do it. You'd probably have to do it with people, maybe you have somebody in Ohio, somebody in Missouri, somebody in Pennsylvania, I don't know how, where you can see the moon from all the different spots at the same time.
Yeah.
You'd have to do it like that and as far away as possible to be as accurate as possible.
Yeah.
So as everybody taking these fixes would have to be far away from each other as possible to make it more accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that could be something.
And speaking on the gyroscope thing, I kind of wanted to touch on that really quick. He mentioned it, and I'm pretty sure you remember me talking to you about it yesterday, Mark, off air. But one thing that really nailed the last nail in the coffin for me on this whole globe thing, any flat earther I've met will always admit that we don't know 100% whether the Earth is like, a perfect, disc just floating around, but we do stand on the principle that we know it's not a globe. We won't sit there and say we know 100% it's flat, but we know it's not a globe. And the reason why I say that is because of the laws of precession. A gyroscope, it's considered an extremely accurate instrument we use to maintain attitude throughout space. And I'm not talking about outer space. I'm just talking about general space. And if anyone's listening, try to conceptualize this for a second. All right, imagine that an aircraft is on top of the North Pole, and its gyro is spun up completely. It's calibrated, it's spun up, and they usually operate them throughout a vacuum. So, no air resistance is going to come across it and try to, knock it off balance. So once it's spun up and they take off, they use that as an instrument to maintain level flight and measure the bank of their turns. Because the gyroscope has the innate ability to be able to stay always parallel to the flat plane of when they take off. Now, if they take off from the North Pole and they start flying down towards the equator, you have to understand something. That gyroscope will stay spinning in the orientation that it was in when it left the North Pole, which if you're looking at the Earth, just if you could zoom out, it would be from left to right, flat line from the North Pole. As they fly down around the world to the equator, that gyroscope's going to still stay flat to your perspective, but they're supposedly going down. So it would look on their instruments like their instrument is actually taking a nosedive the entire time. But we don't see that.
Yeah. And that's I'm sorry, Robert, that's also what you see. Robert.
What's that?
I'm sorry, Jason.
I was going to say it's because we're crazy. That's why we don't see it.
No, but Jason, underneath the water, that's the same principle there.
It's the same thing. It's just imagine something spinning so fast. Well, have you guys ever done? You take the front wheel off your bike and you hold it in your hands, and somebody spins it and you try to move it side to side.
Right.
Yeah.
It fights you. Now imagine that spinning at almost 3,000 times per second. Okay, that doesn't move. That thing, it has a reference point, X, Y, and Z axis.
Yeah.
And that ball does not move. Everything moves around. The ship, the submarine, the plane literally moves around it. It stays stationary in all space and time. It does not move. Okay?
Okay.
So that's the zero reference point. So when you're supposed to be going over this curve, it's not registering with this thing that's staying on that x-axis, that plane, that flat plane. It would be reading all that, and it doesn't because it's not moving. And the front of your plane or ship or submarine isn't pitching down either.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's the thing. Like, just to piggyback off what he just said, if you apply that to our instruments, and they always train us in the Navy, and I know he knows what I'm talking about, they always train us to trust our instruments. They always say that, trust your instruments, trust your instruments. It's pounded into our head all the time. So if we're to trust our instruments, if they worked on the ideology that, oh yeah, it just, stays flat, but we still somehow just fly around a globe and, it doesn't change or none of that stuff. If we followed our instruments and it works on a globe model, even though it stays on an X plane, on a flat plane, eventually you would just fly off the world because you're maintaining level flight, right?
Yeah.
Technically speaking, you would be gaining altitude all the time. You know?
And you never do.
Exactly.
Wow.
Hey, can I read something to you guys?
Hey, Mark.
Hey. So we're going to wrap this up because we got about a minute left, and probably not even that. So that's the end of this show for tonight. And what we'll do is we will continue the rest of this interview between Robert and Jason from the U.S. Navy on their thoughts on the whole flat Earth concept on Jonathan's show coming up in the next one, which will be great. We'll try to make it real fun. But I think we'll do the interview in the first part of that show. Is that what we're thinking? Okay,
yeah, that'll be good. And then we can take calls, like I said, and discuss it.
Yeah, because there's a lot to discuss here. But basically, what they're saying here is that, they're both agreeing on all the instruments are saying that it sure looks flat, and or at least, at very least, not a sphere. So that's fantastic. Any closing things from you?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is great. You got two military career guys, experts in their field, and they're telling us they're trusting their instrumentation, and the instrumentation doesn't lie.
Yeah. All right. See you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.